Okay, so this is gonna be a sort of theory crafting rosters video. Um, we're looking at like the post major, and we're gonna be, oh my goodness, voice crack. We're gonna be, theory crafting some like new rosters that I think would be good for a few different regions that I have in mind. This is probably going to be a sort of longer video, and I'm going to be doing stuff in post, because right now I'm just recording my face, that's it. But I'm going to be putting in some editing things as well afterwards, so you can have that to look at. So, I want to start with the obvious region. I have my paper here, which is Denmark. Now, Denmark, both of the top Danish teams, those which were at the major, went out in the group stage. North and Astralis, Kerrigan, the only Dane to be in the playoffs of the major. And so a lot of people are expecting Danish roster changes to happen. And so I tweeted, I made a tweet, which I'll show on the screen here, where I sort of suggested some rosters. I said for my first one, Glaive, Device, Dupree, Config, and Valde. And then Professor from HLTV, he replied and he said, putting Sipnix or Sipex on the second team, why would you do that? And he has a point, right? And Lurpus also did sort of the same thing, where he put the Straws as Device, Glaive, Jugi, Config, and Sipex, which is interesting in itself. But basically, I wanted to go through step by step, building the best Danish team, and then going from there, filling in the gaps. So what I did was I took a pool of players, which was, Astralis, North, Heroic, Magisk, Asilian, and Tinsky, Pimp, and North Academy. So that's the pool of players I'm working with. I didn't really look at other players, with a few exceptions. So basically, right now, the two players that are like guaranteed to be in the best Danish team are Glaive and Device. Okay, so what I'm going to be showing on the screen is what I've done is for each player in these teams, I've like done a role, like primary role, and then like a secondary role that they can fulfill either within the same team, or just like their primary and secondary roles basically that they can do. And so Glaive I have as IGL and entry, and Device I would keep him as primary op, and then Rifle as secondary. Now I think the third player you have to choose has to be Config as your entry fragger and secondary op player. He is probably the second or third best player in Denmark with Device and Dupree right now, and has shown incredible capability on North already, even if he's been playing bad in like the last month or two, right? We've seen his potential. It's very high. Then you get these last two players. I think there is some wiggle room for them, but I've chosen Sipex first to stay as like your support player and your like clutch player. He's going to fulfill the clutch role, but he's going to be your support clutch player. That sort of like bomb site anchor, that sort of deal. And I have chosen to keep Dupree as the final player, but he's going to be going back to his role in Astralis for the most of 2017, which was a lurk player. He can obviously entry if he needs to. I just say keep him off of the op. He showed some good op things at Blast and at EPL and ECS, I guess. The three events that he played without Device. He showed some good stuff with the op there, but his opping at the major was just not up to par. So I would say put him back on the lurk because he did excel in that role. So that would be my Strauss lineup. And then my North lineup, which like I put these names as like first best team, second best team, third best team. So my North lineup. This one is, there's quite a lot of changes here to what North currently looks like. So I would say, okay, as an IGL for our in-game leader, we have basically two options. We have MSL and we have Snappy. MSL, I would say, has failed in North. Ever since they left Dignitas and joined North, they've not lived up to the expectations. So that's why I've chosen Snappy. I think Snappy is a good in-game leader. I'd like to see what he can do with some more talent around him instead of what he has in Heroic. So we'll try out Snappy. He can also be secondary op if you need it. I don't know if people know this, but Snappy used to be a primary hopper. Then I would take Jugi as my primary op. Just bring him up from Heroic as well. He's shown a lot of promise, and with the current form Cajun B has been in, I think Jugi would be a better bet for not only for the now but also for the future. Since we've removed Kirby from Strauss, we're going to put Kirby into this team, and he's going to be the entry fragger. Just going to be an aggressive player. Kirby's already shown that he can excel in it. It's just that in recent months, config has been better. Then I'm putting in Valde as my lurker and support player. In Heroic, he showed a lot within the lurking sort of role. So I think if you put that if you put him in that role and bring Snappy in, who he played well under, I think Valde can do a lot of good things in this team. And then for my last one, I am choosing Magus. He's not looked great in Optic. I think it would be better for him to return to Denmark. His last while in North before he was removed was not great, but I think part of that can be attributed to MSL and how he led the team, because once AZ joined, Magus didn't look as good as he did when Rubino was in the team. So we're putting Magus in there. We'll see what he can do, and he's going to be sort of like the second guy in after Kirby, and he can sort of clean up. So then Heroic, which is just the generic third team name I'm using, we'll use MSL as our in-game leader, and then Lurpus, we'll take Mertz from North Academy, and we'll put him on primary op. Then I decided to keep Nico, because Nico has been a solid rifler for Heroic. I'm taking Cajun B as now like a support rifler, so he would primarily be a rifler, but he can pick up the secondary op if need be. I think Cajun B I don't think he's shown that he can be a primary opper at the moment. He's just not looked that great. I think he'd be better in a supportive type role, especially as one of the older Danish players. And then I chose AZ as my my second rifler that goes behind. Depends on who's entering. If you want Nico to entry, you could have AZ follow up, or if you want MSL to entry, then they can both go behind. Either way, just AZ is like a rifler. Then I didn't actually make a fourth or more teams. I just wanted to list like the other players that I think you could put into teams below here that are like worth looking at. So we have Estag and Madi from her current heroic, who I think are solid, just not good enough to be in the top 3 teams. Tensky and Asilian, currently playing in Man's Not Hot. I wish they were on better teams, but they haven't shown like top 3 Denmark level. Pimp obviously is looking for a team. Then we have Insta from Tricked, who is shown to be a solid in-game leader, and Rixo, also from Tricked. He's been playing really well for them. Then we have Stavin from Fragsters. He's like 15. He's showing a lot of promise, up-and-coming guy. And then from North Academy, I picked out Gade and Borup as more up-and-comers who have been playing well for them. So I think those are some good players to look at for like the future. Well, the last ones for the future, but some of the old boys as well can hang. They can hang. So that's sort of my breakdown for Denmark. You can feel free to disagree. I think those would be my top 3 lineups. Obviously, the lower you go down, the more like wiggle room there is. But yeah. Oh, I wanted to also point out that for the top 2 stalls in North, I think there is a good argument to be made for swapping Dupree and Valde and putting Valde as the lurk player for Astralis, and then putting Dupree as putting Dupree down in North, basically in the same role. Because it just depends on how strong you think Valde is versus Dupree. So I think there's a good argument to be made there for either way. Anyway, we're moving on to France. Not G2, interestingly enough, because G2 is really good. And they're, in my opinion, the second favorite for the major behind FaZe at this moment. So we're not changing G2. We're having Shocks. He's IGL and Lurk. Kenny S on the op. Apex on the entry. NBK, support, secondary op. And then Body as your just other rifler. Now here's where we're changing shit. So Envious is not in a good place. None of the French teams outside of G2 are in a good place. So we're going to do the sub-top French shuffle. So if you're making the second best French team and all the G2 players are off limits, okay, there's 3 players that I think are a lock to be in the team. There are 3 players you absolutely need to have. RPK, Scream, and Kiyashima. I think those 3 players absolutely need to be in the second best French team. Right? And so when you go about choosing, okay, none of those players are in-game leaders, and none of them are oppers. So we have to choose 1 player who can do both, or 2 players to do both those things. Since they're fairly essential, I would say, to having a team that can do things at LAN. So Happy has not shown any promise in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, and probably just 2 years, that he can be a top IGL. Now, he's still a skilled player, right? Can be a powerful lurker, and can secondary op. So he could be, I could choose him to be in this team, but I would not choose him as my in-game leader. Now, whether or not these would actually happen in reality is a different story, right? Whether or not he wants to give up being the in-game leader is, it's off to the side. But he could be in this team. Now, I've chosen to bring up Existence. I think he's still a good in-game leader. And I think with the right players, he could do a lot of damage. So we're putting Existence in as our in-game leader, and he in RPK can sort of trade off the entry fragging duties. Scream will be the follow-up rifler, he'll be the cleanup guy, and then Kiyashima is obviously going to be your support player. Now for op, there's a lot of places you can go. There's not very many strong oppers in France outside of Kenny S. You could put Happy as your primary opper, but I don't know if that would work very well with his lurking style. So I've opted to not choose Happy. You could theoretically make Existence your main op, but I don't really think his opping is that up to par, in Global Offensive at least. So there's also Zaiwu, who is the primary opper for Against All Authority, but Zaiwu hasn't shown me enough yet to be in a top 2 French team. So I decided to go with Tuanu from LDLC. Now, Tuanu has looked very bad for most of 2017. He has not looked good. But there's a few reasons why I think he would work in this team. And one of them is, in LDLC, he's expected to be your first or second best player. And in this team, he has very little expectations compared to LDLC. When you have RPK, Scream, and Kiyashima on your team, you don't have to really worry about being the star, even as the opper. So he's gonna have way less pressure on his shoulders. He'll have less expectations to do well. And so I think if you loosen him up a bit like that, then he can improve his performance. He's worked with Existence for a long time, so Existence will know how to use him. And I think if you use him as a mobile pick style opper, then he could work well in this team. Then I created a third team. Third team. I didn't give this one a name. I guess it would kind of be under LDLC if we go by the general hierarchy within the French scene. But I made a third team, and I put Happy in as the in-game leader, because I would still say he's the third best in-game leader in the French scene. Oh my goodness, excuse me. So I have him as in-game leader. Then I've chosen Zaiwu to be the primary op player, but he can also rifle. I decided to take Maniac from LDLC and have him as the support player. Yep. Then I've taken XMS from Envious. XMS hasn't looked good in Envious, but he showed a lot of potential in LDLC, so I think he can be salvaged. Whether or not he'll ever be able to play well under Happy is a different thing, but he's also going to be on a lower level here, so I think XMS is a reasonable pick. I'm putting him as the aggro entry sort of player. And then since Misfits is in a little weird scenario right now, I allowed myself to use the duo, and I'm putting Amanek into this team as a rifle player and then a secondary opper. Then I didn't actually make a fourth team. I just threw in the other players from the upper teams that I didn't choose, and then some other ones that I think are some up-and-comers. So we have Sixer, he's main op player. Alex from LDLC has been playing quite well. Devil has also been playing solid in LDLC, so Devil as a lurker. Devo Duvek has actually exceeded my expectations in Misfits. He started off, he didn't look that great, but he's actually improved quite a lot over his time in Misfits, so I think Devo Duvek is a good choice. And then Haji from Invia's Academy has been playing quite well in the past months. So I think he's a good pick for a lower tier French team. And now, so those are my French Shuffle V4, I guess, picks. You can feel free to agree or disagree on my envious lineup. Tuanu is a controversial pick. But now we get to move on to Poland. And this will include Virtus.pro. Now, Poland's talent pool is quite a bit smaller than France or Denmark's. So I only made 2 full lineups compared to the 3 for the other ones. And then I have just some extra players at the end that I think are worthwhile to look at. So for Virtus.pro, what I've done is first of all, I've removed Taz. He's the weakest player in the team, I would say, by a large margin. So I've removed him. And then for the purposes of this, I've had him just retire. He could play for more teams, but I don't know if he wants to or if it's worth it taking him in as a 31-year-old. I've also removed Bialy, who just has not fulfilled his role within the team well enough. So I've taken Neo and I've made him the in-game leader. Then we're taking Pasha. He's going to stay on the primary op role, and then as a secondary role, if they want to switch things up, he can play Lurk. We've kept Snacks. We're obviously keeping Snacks. He's going to be primarily on the rifles, but he can obviously also op as well. And he's going to be sort of he's kind of do the inverse of Pasha, I would say. He's going to be sort of on your Lurk as well. But, okay, well, here, let me introduce the other 2 players. So we're going to take Michu from Kingwin, and he's going to be sort of our aggro entry type player, like an aggro rifler. And then we're going to take Furlan from AGO. Now, Furlan is like a lurker in AGO, so I would actually put Furlan as like a support lurk in this team, in this Virtus.pro team, since he would likely be, I think he would be best fit for that. Neo's obviously going to be doing most of the supportive roles, but I think Furlan can help him out a bit there. Since most of our firepower, in theory, will be coming from Snacks, Michu, and Pasha in that order. So AGO, since they're obviously going to be losing Furlan, I made a few changes to AGO and added some players. So we're going to keep Toao as our in-game leader, since he's shown to be good at it, I guess. AGO's risen through the ranks to become easily the second best Polish team, possibly even the first, if you want to argue that VP has just gone that far down. So we're going to keep Toao. We're also keeping Groovy as a passive rifler. He's shown far better things in AGO than he ever did in Vexed or AGG. We're going to keep PHR as a support player because he's just been solid, I guess. He hasn't been terrible. I don't know if there's anyone better to replace him. Then we're going to replace Snatchy with Sparrow, because I would say that Sparrow's a better offer than Snatchy. Has a lot more veteran experience to sort of replace the veteran experience of Furlan. And then I was just going to put Bialy in there, because Bialy's not going to retire. He's only like 22, 23 or something. So we'll put Bialy in as an entry player in this team. Then I didn't actually make a full third team, because I don't know the players of Pride well enough, and so I wouldn't have enough players to make a full team. And so I just put Maus from Kingwin, Snatchy, who I removed from AGO, Innocent. If he wants to leave Sprout and come back to Poland, I think there's options there. And then Hyper, who joined Pampa. But Hyper has shown to be a solid player still. He's putting up good numbers in Pampa. He put up solid numbers, I would say, in Kingwin, even before he was removed. So there's your Poland stuff. People are gonna come and just ultra wreck me for all these suggestions. People, I know I'm about to get like ultra wrecked. All right, now here comes the big one, CIS. Now, Navi's not going to be making changes, so I don't have any changes set for Navi. But this, I just went crazy on this. Like, I just started making changes like crazy. So, we're going to start with Gambit. So, the two players that are an absolute must-keep on Gambit are Hobbit and Adrian. Oh, damn. No, what have I done? No, I've ruined everything. Oh my goodness. Well, okay then. Yeah, I just like went willy-nilly on some of these teams. So like a lot of these ones I didn't actually sit and think through all of them. These are kind of just like off the top of my head, things that like looked good. But anyway, Hobbit and Adrian are staying as riflers. Alright, so the in-game leading situation. Okay, well, we're going to take Angel from Hellraisers. And, oh no, how could I've completely ruined this. I'm realizing now that I've forgotten about certain players that would definitely fit into some of these teams. Hold on real quick. We'll put him in there. We'll put him there. And I'll just put this guy down here. Okay. I think this works. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, so we're putting Angel as our in-game leader, and he'll also be like the entry fragger. As far as Opping is concerned, okay. Mo is decent, but he's not great. And I think it's worthwhile to take a gamble on Davcost, who's basically been like the carry for Spirit as long as he's been on the team. So I think it's worthwhile to take a shot at Davcost as your primary out player. If not, then I guess you can just stick with Mo, who I think is serviceable as long as he's not. As long as you don't rely on him to put up performances, then you should probably be okay. And then as a support player, support player and secondary out player, very important. Markelov, I think, can fit into this team. As long as he's not required to put up big numbers or anything. He's, proven solid support player, so it was just that. Then we went down to Vega Squadron, so we're going to keep JR as our in-game leader and op player. We'll keep Mir and Chopper, who are the clear two best players in the team. And then I took, so we're removing Kashander and Hudgy, and we're adding in Quekert and Buster from Avangar, who I would say are the two best players from Avangar. Once we've got to this level, I'm not I don't know the nuance of the roles past in-game leader and opper and rifler. I don't know much of the nuance beyond that. But I think Quekert and Buster could do a lot of damage in this team. This would just be a very skill team, and JR would probably just, call pretty loosely. Then we go down, and we've taken Avengar. We're going to keep Jame on the in-game leader and op role. And we're going to keep with Demasik, who is also quite good. I decided to not keep Krizen because he wasn't really impressing me at all on any level, even like online and in the lower tier stuff, he wasn't that great. So if we're going to keep with the Kazakhstan theme, then I chose to pick up Ramzik from Tengri, basically the only salvageable player from that team. So we're going to take Ramzik as a rifler, but he can also op. Then we've taken Hutji from Vega. Hutji's been a solid player for them, but not like great. So I think just moving one level below would be good. And then we can throw in Bondik, who is quite good. I would say Bondik is underrated. Then we have Quantum Bellator Fire. I don't know. They're probably not going to be making any changes because they made top 8. But if we were to make changes to Quantum Bellator Fire, okay, we're going to keep Waterfalls as our in-game leader and our opera. There's a lot of IGL ops in CIS. We'll keep Boomich as our... we'll keep Boomich as a rifler. We'll keep Quick as an opper, as a rifler, sorry. Then I decided to throw in Coldy from Spirit and Sum Da Young also from Spirit. So Coldy is, I would say, best or second best player in Spirit. Who are the next team down? Like, if you're going down the teams, well, there's Flipside, but I decided to just not take anyone from Flipside because well, except for Markelov, I just don't see anything in those players. Again, once we get to the Vegas Squadron and below, these are just like off the top of my head, just randomness. So this is not actually like this is not like serious. Like all the other regions, I was like, these are like serious teams that I think could work. These ones are just like players I think are good. This is just the players I think are good section. So I took Coldy and Sum Da Young. I keep forgetting players. Basically, what I've done is I remove players from better teams and I put in the other players. But the players I remove, I forget that they're gone, and so I forget about them. Basically, in the rest, okay, so let me just like put in players that I think are worthwhile down at this level. So after that, okay, you've got the rest of Spirit. You've got Sotfik and Dima. You've got Jimka and Volina from QBF. You've got Seized and Waylander from Flipside, I think are worthwhile for a lower team. Then you've got Little on Forze, who I think is a solid opper. He would have been higher up, but all the higher teams already have good or better oppers, so it kind of sucks for him. And then you've also got Mo, of course. If he's not going to be in Gambit, you can throw him in any of these teams, basically. He'd be good for those. Kashander, being removed from Vegas Squadron, you can put him on any of these lower teams. I think he'd do fine. And then a few other players I wanted to name as like up-and-comers from CIS that I think are worthwhile to look at are Bass from Forze, Flarich and Kinzor from Pro 100, and then Arch, who was removed from Spirit recently. I think they're all worth looking at. Yeah, that was just like the random, just like throw players I like together section. So don't take all the rosters below Gambit with a grain of salt. Those are just like off the top of my head. And then, okay, for this last section, okay, Germany, basically in reference to Big. I think Big needs to make a roster change, but the thing is, I don't know who they can get, because I've just looked at the German scene here, and I'm like, I don't see anyone that I think is worthwhile to pick up. I'm like, okay. So, first person to remove on big would be Legia. He is the weakest link in this team. And if I were to remove another player, I'd remove Kiev. But then I go down, I'm like, okay, alternate attacks. Ekfin, I guess, has some potential. Searson is kind of good. I'm like, okay, Euronix, Cressy, maybe. In Berserk, I don't see anyone to get on big. And then you're just going lower and lower, and I'm like, I don't really see anyone. I guess you can be like, okay, let's say we remove Legia and we get Speedy. Eh? Put in Dennis? I don't know. That's the thing. Like, Big needs to make changes, but I don't know who they can get. Like, okay, you can say maybe they can sort of merge with Sprout and try to make something there, but like, the Sprout players aren't that impressive. None of the 3 German ones are. So I don't really know where you go from there. The hell? Sorry. And so I guess we're just gonna like put in possibilities. Speedy, Dennis, I think, are worth looking at. I really don't. I think Kiev is better than Crystal as an opera, so I would not even replace Crystal or put Crystal into this team. And then I guess some of the alternate attacks players, maybe. I don't know. And that's basically the extent of this video. Just some random theory crafting. Take most of it with a grain of salt. I think the the top 2 teams from each of the 3 regions I did, or from all 4 regions, I think the top 2 teams, I seriously think that those could be good teams. The top 2 at least. Once you get to the lower tier teams, and especially the CIS teams, they're just like random, like, oh, I think this would be cool to see what would happen. I think this player is good. I like this player. I'd like to see them in a better spot. That's basically what the lower ones are. I think the top 2 from each one have good potential. I'd like to see them play. But anyway, that's it. Now I get to go edit this video, and that's not going to be fun. But thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, share the video, do all that stuff, because it helps me a lot. You know, I gotta build my brand. You know, I'm on the grind, even though I'm not grinding. I'm just small guy out here. You know, I'm trying to make it in the world, so you gotta help me out. You know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.